This video is brought to you by Sporlan, quality, integrity, and tradition. Alright, we got a call today on an ice machine. They said the left machine is working, but the right machine is not. It's got a dead display. And yeah, looks like they need to do some cleaning in there too. But left machine seems to be working, right machine seems to be completely down, so let's open it up and see what we can find. This is an older machine. According to this right here, the install date was 2013. Alright, this board is locked up. See how it's got all the LEDs on it? Something's going on. We're going to power cycle it, possibly update the firmware, and see if it'll restart. I bet it does when I power cycle it. Could, in theory, just pull these right here. See if that disappears. Oh, that doesn't do it to the board, actually. Where's the board get its power? From this one down here that I can't get to safely. I've done that before and gotten shocked. Yeah, this is a hard one to get to. So I'll just go to the back of the board, or back of the unit, and unplug it and plug it back in and see what happens. This guy right here. So let's go ahead and power it off. Give it a couple seconds, and then we'll turn it back on. There we go. Let's see what happens here. Off. Oh, the buttons on the touchpad aren't working. There we go. It's barely working. It's not responding very well. So this guy's more than likely going to need a touchpad display and possibly a firmware update. Let's see what happens. Right, this guy's touchpad is not even responding to like barely responding. So yeah, it's a little interesting. Let's go into exit menu, service, diagnostics, no, real-time data, no, we want history, event log, there you go, view log, long harvest on 510, power loss 615, curtain fault. So it's had a lot of issues. We're just going to go ahead and clear the event log, because that's irrelevant to me at this point. Exit. Yeah, alright, I'm gonna go see if I have a firmware stick real quick. Turns out I don't have a firmware stick, so we're just gonna turn it on, see if we can get the machine to make ice, and then we'll potentially have to order a touchpad and then make sure we bring a firmware stick back with us to try to update the firmware on this. I've heard a lot of people say that if you look at the battery, sometimes there's a battery on the back of these things, and make sure that the battery isn't going bad, because that can cause these weird issues, or it could just be a simple firmware update. Sometimes they glitch, these boards, when they get old. While I'm waiting for this one to turn on, definitely needs to be clean, so I'm going to do what I can to just wipe down the areas that I can get to, and then we're going to open this guy up and just have a look in here too. We're currently just waiting. It's in the freeze mode right now. I opened up this machine. Not too bad. I give it a quick little wipe down. It needs to be cleaned and torn apart, but you got to be careful, because in order to get all this stuff out, you really got to tear it apart and bleach the machine, or use sanitizer and, you know, go to town on it. So you want to be careful about disturbing a lot of that when you have a functioning machine, but it's not too bad. Certainly could be worse. But we're just waiting for it to make ice. So these machines use the ice thickness probe, or it's a microphone essentially. And when the sound of the water bouncing off the ice gets loud enough for it, consistent enough, they do two frequencies. My assumption is redundancy, because as you're talking, one of them will climb and the other one won't. So that's my assumption. Never been told that to me. But when it senses high enough sound waves for a consistent enough time, it knows that it's time to harvest the ice. See, we got 2 sheets of ice on each evaporator, or a full sheet of ice on each evaporator. So now we're just waiting to see it fall off. You can see the vacuum being broken on the left. If you look closely, you'll see it. Looks like water's running through the evaporator. That's just the vacuum or the suction being broken on the back of the sheet of ice. They do an air pump right here that pumps air behind the ice to help break the vacuum. That way it can fall off faster. And it uses the shape of the evaporator and the direction in which the little slots are constructed. The weight of the ice sheet pulls it off as one sheet. So the ice naturally falls off the evaporator as long as the evaporator is somewhat clean. Looks like the left side's gonna drop. Nope, right side's dropping right now. Comes out here, activates this curtain switch right here. There's a magnet in it, and there's a magnetic switch right here and a magnetic switch right here. So now it knows that both have dropped. And if you look at this one's about to break. See that? That magnet's about to fall out. So it looks like it makes ice. I'm gonna watch it make one more batch just to make sure, and then maybe we'll let them go until we get the touchpad and then the firmware update. All right, this one just went into a harvest again. Both frequency numbers are way high, and we're just waiting for it to break the vacuum from the back of the evaporator. So the air pump's running on both sides. There's one tucked back behind here too. And it's running, and it's working on breaking the vacuum. Let's see if we can get a visual of it. See it again. So you can see, if you look at the top right now, the air is getting behind the sheet of ice. That's why it looks like water's running through the ice. That's the air breaking the vacuum behind it. And then it starts melting the ice just a little bit to go ahead and release it. And then the weight of the ice as a sheet is going to pull the whole sheet off, and then it's going to break up when it falls down. Now normally there's a diverter, but those have since become problematic, so we don't really use them anymore. We just let the weight of the ice break it off. So there's the weight of it falling off. Came off as one full sheet, and then now we're waiting for this side to separate and release. So it's getting ready to go. There it goes as a sheet, and then it just kind of falls down right here, and then it activates the magnetic switch, tells the circuit board that both sides have dumped, and then now it goes back into a pre-chill, and it's going to make ice again. All right, we'll bring back some curtains, a firmware update, a touchpad, and we'll go from there. All right, it is about 3-4 days later from the last clip. Machine's been working good, bin's full, everything's cool with that, but we've got a new touchpad for this, and then we're going to update the firmware on this guy. So first thing we need to do is go ahead and get the power shut off. That's right back here. Should be able to do that, I believe, right there. Yep, there we go, power's off. And then we're going to go ahead and get this opened up, get the touchpad taken out, and get down and get it built, because you got to put it together. Once we get the cover taken off the circuit board, you got to take the Phillips screws out, then the whole bracket assembly for the touchpad will come out, and you'll see we build it. And when we do these touchpads, we do the touchpad, the LCD, and the cable. We just eliminate it from being a problem. I've had ones bite you in the butt where you think it's one thing and then it turns out it's another, so it's just easier, just do it all. It's not that much more money either. So once we get this pulled down, the whole bracket assembly, just chase this cable back up to where it goes into the board, and we're just going to unplug that cable. So go ahead and get that guy unplugged carefully. There might be a button to push. You don't want to work hard. It should be easy. You see? Oh, this one, it just pops out. Yeah, you're just gonna pull. But you just, whenever you're doing something, if it's really difficult, you're either missing something, or this one, you can kind of look at it while it's in there. I don't see any clips or anything you had to undo. So let's head down and get the new one built real quick. We got all the parts. We got an LCD, a touchpad, and the cable. We have to pay attention to what screws we're holding this on, because it does only go in one direction. So you can see those two are gonna stay when we put it together. But we'll build this guy real quick, and then we'll get it put back in. Okay, so very carefully make sure it lines up properly, and you don't want to break anything because everything's fragile, so it needs to go on straight.
Does it click?
It clicks, but it goes behind the board. So it just pushes up into there. So it's going to go right in front of the board. So you got to push it in carefully. Give it a little more force. So if you look at it, it can only go on one way. It's just they have those little guys really tight and it goes on. So it's not going to twist or anything. The cable's going to stay, the ribbon's going to stay like that. So it just needs to be pushed onto this. It'll be a tight fit. Okay, let's inspect it, make sure it's pushed all the way up. Looks like it, yeah, all the way in. Yep, you're in, okay, and then now you're gonna tuck under the top. Top first, there's little things that slide under. So it's gonna go up higher. There you go. And then now, you're going to be very careful using the drill for this. I would suggest using a normal 6-in-1 because you don't want to twist the board up. So you got to use logic. Like if you look at this, why would they make it twist, you know? So that kind of gives you guidance that it should sit like that. We could also pull the other one apart and look at how it is connected to prove, you know, if I've never done one of these, I would be inspecting the other one as I'm putting this one together. Now I've done countless numbers of these things, so I'm pretty well versed in how they go together. So anytime you're with a board, you're just gonna snug it. That's it. You don't want to like go crazy. Okay, and then now you can put your back plate on, but you got to use the old one to give you guidance on what screws need to stay out. So we're only going to put in this screw and this screw in relation to this plug. So this one and this one is the only screws going in at the moment. Push that over. It does have like a silicone gasket around it. Get those two in, and then we'll put the bracket on. And then go ahead and grab your bracket, set it over, screw it down. So now you can see those ones have, you know, whatever tapered or recessed things, and then these ones, the screws are actually going to hold the bracket to the housing. All right, we can look at the plug. The plug has two sides. It looks like the connector, we're not going to use it at all, so I'm just looking to see if it's a different connector for each side or if it's the same. I think it's the same. I don't think it matters. Let me see that one. Yeah, pretty much looks the same. So just make sure we get it lined up right. If we look at the plug, you can see that there's a big notch at the top of it, and then there's a big notch at the top of that one. So kind of gives you an idea what direction it goes. Make sure the pins are lined up straight. Push it in all the way. All right, we're ready to take it up top and get it installed. We'll use the drill to kind of get them started, but then you're going to torque them down with the 6-in-1 just to be safe. That way we don't strip them. There you go. All right, at this point, everything is connected. Got a bunch of stuff everywhere. We're gonna go ahead and plug this guy back in and then test the operation of everything. So touchpad should light up, making ice. We're gonna go ahead and turn it off. And we are gonna go ahead now and update the firmware. So before we had very limited adjustment. It was like glitchy. So now we're gonna go into, well first, yeah, let's go into service, replace control board, USB setup, and we're going to insert a firmware. Now I did a couple flash drives at the shop and we're gonna see if this one works. All right, so we inserted the drive. And hang on a sec though. USB setup. I think that's actually the wrong spot. Let me see something here. USB setup, USB stick, there you go. Download firmware, that's what we want to do. Insert drive, press check. So now it's going to update. It's going to go through a process. We got to wait 10 minutes or so, and then when it's done, the machine will go back to normal operation. All right, firmware's done when it just goes back to normal operation. So then what we're gonna do is just double check some settings. So we're gonna go into setup, we're gonna go into time configuration, make sure it's month, day, year, it is. Make sure it's set for 12 hours, it is, we're good. Let's go to LCD brightness, and I always turn it up, and it is, we're good. This guy's basically ready. We're not doing any password or anything like that. And what we're gonna do is turn power on and just watch a cycle. Make sure it makes ice for us. Make sure it doesn't do anything funky, which I don't think it will, because the machine was full of ice when we got here. So I like going to real-time data on these old ones, time and temp, and then you can kind of see everything that's going on. Looks like the sensors might be doing pretty good. We can see our frequency right there, so we're just going to watch it back. The unit's going to start in a pre-chill. The pre-chill is going to help to prevent some slush, but it doesn't prevent it all. If you have a startup after a long off cycle and you turn it on, it's going to slush up for the first, few minutes. But the pre-chill is there to help prevent that, and I'm sure it has other functions in there too. But now, and gets the evaporator cold enough, I guess, too, because you want that evaporator to be super cold when the water starts running over it to be able to freeze everything. So after the pre-chill, it's going to turn on the water pump, start circulating the water with the normal operation, and then I think it fills one time during the cycle, but firmware updates might have changed that. It's kind of something I don't really pay too much attention to these days, but yeah, so then it's just going to go through the cycle, and then it's going to start after so much time looking at the ice thickness probe and looking to see when both of those frequencies get high enough to assume that the water is jumping off the ice and it's close to the thing. So the water just turned on, you can see. So now it says freeze on here. And then once the water, so the microphone or ice thickness probe basically, because it is just a microphone essentially, it's listening to the water that's running over the ice. As the water gets closer to the microphone, it makes a very distinct sound, and it assumes that the machine is full of ice. It could also be incorrectly sensing it if the, you can see someone busted the little zip tie off of this, so that's kind of sucks. But if the ice thickness probe's not adjusted correctly, it could assume that it has ice on it when it doesn't too, so that could be kind of out of whack. But we're looking good. The ice in here looks really good, decent size, don't see any issues with that. Little weird looking right there, but everything else in there looks pretty good. So we're just about to get ready to harvest. Ice is starting to form on the evaporator. We've got a pretty thick sheet going, and we're hearing the clicking and popping of the sheet as it's just kind of, expanding and contracting essentially. So you can see the frequencies starting to consistently go higher and higher. And then here in a heartbeat, it's going to go into harvest. And we just went into our harvest. So now what's going to happen is the cool vapor valves are going to open up. It's going to take that cool, warm vapor or cool vapor off the top of the receiver, run it through the evaporator. It's got air pumps on, basically on each side, that is breaking the vacuum behind the sheet of ice. So if you look up there, you'll see the water start to move behind the ice, and that's the vacuum being broken, and then the weight of the ice is going to slide off the evaporators. There goes one side, and there goes the last side. And then now it starts the whole cycle, and it uses the magnetic curtain switches right here. See, this one's pretty dirty inside too, but it uses the magnetic curtain switches to tell it that each side has dropped its sheet of ice. So when the right side drops, the cool vapor valve closes for that one. And then when the left side drops, the cool vapor valve closes. Whichever one goes first, it looks for the second one to end the cycle. Oh, and I forgot, last but not least, we're gonna put a curtain on this right side because you can see that the magnet's about to break off. You can see the straight line right there. So we're gonna go ahead and change that curtain too. But other than that, that's it on this one. We're gonna wrap it up, give the customer the keys, and tell them to keep an eye on it. It's funny how you can have multiple ice machine calls in a row. Now this was filmed a while back, but it was literally like right after the last ice machine video that I did. Sorry, there's a fly flying around me right now, a gnat. But it was like a day or two later from when I filmed the last ice machine video for the Hoshizaki ice machine where the bin thermostat broke. So who knows? It's funny how it goes, but the big thing is being thorough, obviously, you know, looking around, paying attention to what you're doing. So, you know, the machine's dirty and I want to clean it, but you need to make sure that you understand, you know, once you get in there and start disturbing the dirtiness, it starts falling on the existing ice, becomes a problem. So, you know, you only want to do so much, you know, disturbing of dirt and slime and all that stuff and calcium, because once you disturb it, then it becomes a problem. For instance, on a Hoshizaki ice machine, you might think like, hey, this machine's got a bunch of calcium, let me knock off the calcium. Well, when you knock off calcium from inside a water float and stuff like that, you dislodge some of it and it starts floating through the system, and then it'll get stuck in the pump out check valve or something like that, and it just creates a bigger problem. Like where you fix the machine, you wipe off some calcium, you know, you think you're doing the customer a favor, and then that calcium breaks free, gets in the system, and even though the machine's working when you leave, the next day it gets stuck in the pump out check valve, and then the machine runs out of water. Like, so you just want to be thorough and be cautious about, you know, wiping things down. Think big, right? Just always think big. When it comes to these machines, you know, you might ask, well, hey, the damper or the curtain switch that I replaced, it wasn't bad, it was just going bad. So why did I change it? Did I waste the customer's money? Well, no, because we're thinking big here. You know, this customer doesn't want to have an emergency repair. This wasn't an emergency repair. This was a normal repair, and they don't want any more downtime. So if I can find something else that's about to go bad within reason, I'm going to take care of it at the same time to try to eliminate another service call. On top of that, I've got enough going on, and we're running ragged right now trying to keep up with all the chaos, and we're understaffed, and, you know, so we're doing everything at my company with 2 service techs and 2 apprentices. So it's a little difficult right now. So when we are on site, if within reason, we want to be there, and then we don't want to have to go back because we've got other things we have to get to. So we try to think big. Everybody runs their business differently, you know, and eventually my apprentices will become service techs, and then things will get a little bit more smooth, you know. But of course, I'm always looking for another service tech. But I mean, you got to be that unicorn, because I'm not going to hire out of desperation ever again. I swear I'll never do that. So I will hire the right person if I find them, but you've got to be that unicorn. So if you are interested, shoot me an email, hvacrvideos@gmail.com. I am looking for an experienced service tech, but you got to live local to me here in the Inland Empire. I don't, you know, it just doesn't make sense for me to hire someone that lives in Los Angeles that's going to have, you know, an hour and a half to 2 hour drive into the shop every day. You know, it's not necessary that you're going to have to come to the shop every single day, but 2 to 3 days a week, you're coming into the office, right? We meet, we get parts there, you know, that kind of stuff. So you got to live local to the Inland Empire, to say the least. But anyways, I try to be as thorough. I'm not the best service technician. I'm not perfect in no way. I say that all the time, okay? I just try my best. That's all that I do. I really appreciate you making it to the end. If you want to know more about these Manitowoc ice machines, go to manitowocice.com. Download the manuals. That's where I get them. You know, that's where you get the firmware. That's where you get the training, all that stuff. Just manitowocice.com. Look on there. They'll have training. They'll tell you when they're going to do service classes, all that good stuff too. So I really appreciate you making it to the end. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. And if you're interested in supporting the channel, you know, the easiest way to support this channel is just watch the videos from beginning to end. But if you want to do it monetarily, you can do it through PayPal, Patreon, YouTube channel memberships. There's links in the show notes of this video on how to do those. You can also go to my website, hvacrvideos.com, where we have hats such as this one. We have beanies for this winter coming up, all available at hvacrvideos.com. And last but not least, you can go over to truetechtools.com. You see any cool tools that I use in these videos? I, majority of the time, get them from truetechtools.com, and I actually have an affiliate program set up with them. So at checkout, if you use my affiliate code, big picture, one word, you'll get a discount on majority of the items, and then I get a small commission from that. So that's another great way to help support the channel. So I really do appreciate you. Thank you so very much, and I hope to catch you on the next one.